I use a modality called somatic therapy. Are you guys familiar with somatic therapy?
I think I saw a video of it.
Okay.
You talking about
well,
it.
what do you know about it?
I just recognize the word. Maybe
Okay.
when you start going, I'll know. I do remember you talking about
So
it.
it's the idea that there's a mind and body connection. So safety is a visceral feeling, right? You know when you feel safe.
Yeah,
You know
okay.
when you don't feel safe. You feel it in your gut. So in order to kind of heal whatever's gone on, you got to go, well, you don't got to, but I like to say, especially for Punjabi people, because the dialogue around physical is a lot easier than psychological. So you got to go through the
Start
body,
that.
bottom up processing. You go, all right, when you're talking about that, what does it make you feel physically? Where do you feel it? Is there a knot in your stomach? Is there heaviness in your chest? You just took a deep breath. So
no, I feel it for sure.
yeah.
You're making
So-
me uncomfortable. No, I'm joking. I'm
yeah.
gonna start crying. That's joking.
Put the song on again. Yeah. So it's physical is a side of the story that we neglect so much. We're nervous. We're shaky. That's a primitive response. Our body's trying to tremble out the fear. What do animals do? If your dog was being chased right now, he's going to tremble afterwards because he needs to dispel the trauma.
No, not my dog, but yeah, maybe other.
Your dog's the alpha. He's attacking. No,
joking.
but yeah, so physical stuff, it's really relevant. And that's what somatic therapy is. It's a lot of using what your body's trying to tell you and using that to regulate the nervous system, using that to calm down an overstimulated
And
brain and body.
I was gonna say, I feel like you definitely are giving the Coles notes of that. I feel like there's so much more you could say
We
about that.
can do
so
a mini therapy session
no,
right now.
no, but
let's do that.
No,
Let's,
well,
we
let's-
could.
Let's
Like, I had a
say
couple
what it
questions
is.
on that.
okay, but well,
Like, no, it's me
Like
though.
very
It's everyone.
concise.
No, before you go there, you mentioned watching some of the other episodes where I talked about the stalker, how I was behaving with my body too, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then even right now, you caught me feeling it because when you talk about it and you talk about that feeling in your stomach, like I can feel it. I know when I have it.
awareness to it.
Yeah, it brings my awareness to it. And right now
Yeah.
I'm like exhaling it. But anyways, it's all fun and fine and dandy to talk about all this stuff. But realistically, I'd say over 50% of the audience that is going to listen to this is not going to do shit. I'm just going to say it. And the reason why is because most people are going to either be like, oh my God, this is so soft. This is so they're avoiding it. I think that the truth is the book recommendations are really, really good. But realistically, like if you don't have any care in, and I'm saying this because I know up until this point, if someone has listened, but they aren't going to change anything, the reality is your life is never going to get any better. And anything that bothers you, that's your insecurity, is going to continue to bother you forever and ever. It's never going to be forgotten, and you need to act, and you need to do something. And what I did when I was going through my I was in a long relationship from high school till I was like 22, 23. After that, I was single for a long time.
Right.
And in that period of time, I was like, oh my God, why am I so upset? Okay, you know what? It's because I'm not going to the gym enough. Start going to the gym, that will help. Then it's like, okay, I think I'm too fat or I'm not strong enough, whatever. It's my body image. So I'll focus on eating better. I'll focus on the gym more. Then I'll be like, oh my God, I'm not number one at work. I need to be number one at work. That's why I'm anxious right now, because I'm number two.
Yeah.
Or like my boss, I always thought I was going to get fired. Like every day,
Yeah.
I was always like, I'm going to get fired if I'm not number one, which made sure that my results were always extremely high, because I was obsessed with being, involved in that. It got to a point where I won all the awards you could win, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I just reached all these goals. Like I had a goal when I was working in the corporate world to be, you can get those trips to somewhere if you win, top performers, whatever.
Okay, yeah.
So, when you're
Recognition.
recognition, I was like, oh my God, yes. And I had this dream. That would be my dream. I'd I'd be like, I can't wait to accept that award and go to this trip. And I got to do it. And I was like, well, what now? Okay, great, right? And then fast forward, then I was like, okay, it's my job that's I can't stay here. I changed my job to my dream job, working at Tesla and managing teams there. I was like, oh my God, I got my dream job. Still wasn't happy. Then I was like, oh my God, what? So I went through this journey for a long time. I almost signed up for real therapy, but I ended up doing my own self-help situation. On top of that, I actually in recent years even have used ChatGPT. Okay, where I say, this is my situation. Why am I feeling this way?
Yeah.
My curiosity is what naturally kind of drives me to look inward, because I'll be like, today is a good day. It's sunny outside.
Yeah.
My client's happy with the work.
Yeah.
We just released a podcast, but I'll be feeling like shit. And I'm obviously exhaling it out right now.
With curiosity.
So then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
why is this? And then ADHD, you forget what the hell you were upset about earlier. Too sometimes you're just
Okay.
ping-ponging
Yeah.
around, and
Yeah.
you'll be like, oh yeah, shoot, you know what, I ignored my mom's call and I got kind of annoyed when she kept calling me, and then I feel bad now because I did that, for example. And I'm like, oh shoot, I
Alright.
kind of
Yeah.
you think about these things.
Yeah.
I'm naturally curious like that, and I've been on this mission, and getting to where I am today, my goodness,
Yes.
I would never be able to sit here on this podcast, have
Yeah.
these type of conversations if I didn't take the time to look inward
Curiosity.
and figure out what the hell is making me upset. And guess what?
Yes, yes.
Nothing external is ever going to make you happy. Nothing internal is
Absolutely.
going to sustainably keep you happy
Right.
forever. Like you're going to have ups and downs.
Yeah, it's not about trying to delete, erase, or eliminate the negativity. It's about building your tolerance and coping skills. And it sounds like what you're describing is mindfulness, a big buzzword, right? It gets talked about a lot. But it's that key piece of being able to be the awareness behind your thoughts and feelings rather than being in them. And that's curiosity. And so if you're naturally, innately a curious person, then you're just naturally mindful. Why are you holding your breath right now?
Oh, no, that's just to make sure that I don't forget what I'm going to say. It's not like that.
Okay, I remember where we left off.
Go ahead.
We talked about a mini therapy session.
Sure. You want to do it?
Okay. Well, why do you look so scared? Okay, may I ask, why did you avoid going to therapy?
I almost signed up.
Why didn't you follow through on it?
I was uncomfortable about it for sure. I felt uncomfortable.
Like the stigma? Did you
No,
feel
I didn't care if anyone knew that I was in there. It's just like I just felt like it's a little cringed out by it, I guess, a little bit. Not gonna lie. And at the time, it was COVID. It was 2021.
Right.
Work was going relatively well, but not so well because Tesla was really stressful, and it was a very tough boss to deal with. So it was giving me extreme anxiety at the time.
All right.
And having to handle all that at once, is a lot going on.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the social, like lack of social thing was affecting me to the point where, and my friend had passed away, all the stuff I had going on in that 2 years. So I was like, what the hell's going on with my life?
Yes.
I didn't do it because, I was ADHD, so I probably got distracted from actually signing up. And then within that week time, I ended up doing my self-help therapy, which resulted in extreme, profound moments.
So you were asking what would you do for someone if they're people pleasing, or how would you help someone? And then I was discussing somatic therapy. I was explaining, okay, in a nutshell, this is what somatic therapy is. And just to give you guys a little real snippet of what it is, we can do like a little mini
Sure.
session.
Go ahead.
Which one of you want to? I feel like I'm a magician
I think
asking for a contestant.
Why is everyone looking at me first?
No. I'm just looking over to see if you want to do it. I feel comfortable doing it. I have no problem.
It's not actual therapy.
I know.
It's just to get so people watching can get an idea of what is this thing. What is
Sure.
Great
like,
idea.
A lot of time Punjabi people will
Want me
say
to?
Yeah.
like
Okay, sure.
"Ki ho jana."
Yeah.
Okay,
what,
sure.
What
So
is
go ahead.
talking about it gonna do?
Go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead. You can do it with me.
Who you?
Yeah.
Okay. Try to think of like the last thing that stressed you out or made you uncomfortable in some way. You don't even have to share it. Just think about it.
Uncomfortable.
Stressed, any unpleasant emotion. It doesn't even have to
It's
be big or
self-inflicted. It was
small.
self-inflicted.
All right, just grab it in your head, think about it, revisit that moment.
Okay.
Now, do that body scan from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, and you're just trying to find sensations. Maybe like heaviness in your chest, not in your stomach. See what you notice.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say chest, stomach?
Stomach.
Okay, and then just place your hand where you feel it. Yeah, connect with it, acknowledge it. If you had to associate an emotion with that area in your stomach, what emotion would you say is hanging out there? Because usually emotions will manifest somewhere in the body. So what emotion do you think it is?
Like not a good feeling, I guess. It's like when you feel kind of a bad feeling in the pit of your stomach type of feeling. I guess.
Nervous, dread,
Guilt?
fear?
Maybe guilt.
All right.
Yeah.
Now get into a reflective headspace.
Guilt and dread, maybe both. Yeah, I don't know.
Try to think early years, formative years. Try to think what was one of your earliest or earlier memories of feeling that same feeling, guilt and dread. You don't have to share it.
No, I mean, earliest memories would be stories that my mom have told me over the years. I don't. It does have to be a core memory that I actually remember being present in.
Yeah, like what popped into your head?
Well, I just think about like when I would do something wrong and then I was trying to hide it from my mom that I did something wrong, right?
All right.
Like, and you just feel guilty, I guess, or you feel guilty like you really screwed up, you did something, and then you're like, you just feel like shame, and then you feel like, why did I do that? And your parents are obviously pissed at you, for example.
So now we're talking shame.
Sure, yeah, okay.
What do you feel when you talk about that?
What do you mean?
Like,
Laughter is a coping mechanism.
yeah. So is it uncomfortable? Do you want to get away from this subject right now?
No.
Do you feel like shame comes up a lot for you in different
It's
instances?
it's self-inflicted shame, right? So when you do something stupid, it's for example, when I say something stupid, it's even like lack of action. So so ADHD can sometimes prevent me from actually getting things done.
Right.
So I'll be like, oh my God, I have so much to do. And like, that's what I'm releasing right now. It's like, I have so many things to do. And the thing is, I'm like that hamster on a wheel where I'm always going. And I feel like you can relate, but we're just going. And then you're like, but then you're like, oh, I got to jump on that hamster wheel. And I got to jump on that hamster wheel. And I got to jump on that. So I guess from a young age, it's not like I had like, oh my God, I have all these things to do. It's hard. I guess I haven't thought about this. So I'd have to think deeper about it. But like getting scolded by your parents or getting scolded for no reason from your parents can result in shame maybe too. I guess maybe that's part of why I'm used to that emotion.
So typically, we do a lot more here. We'd work with the shame.
No, keep going. I'm joking.
We'd work with this shame.
Keep going.
But here's the takeaway here.
Yeah.
Sometimes we overcomplicate what is this therapy thing? How are you going to heal me? What's trauma healing? What the two biggest human emotions, guilt and shame. So usually we can dial and crank it back, and we can bring it back to a moment where we felt shamed as a child or guilty as a child. And usually the two questions we'll ask to kind of see what was the landscape growing up, what kind of parenting style did you have, is we'll ask two questions. How did your parents respond when you made a mistake? How did your parents respond when you got hurt? And that's kind of the starting point for exploring going forward with, is this a pattern in your life? Does it inform the way you connect with others? Does it inform the way you show up professionally? Is that shame taking up more space than you realize?
Yeah, in the limited bit of therapy that I've also had not with a registered psychotherapist, I guess you could say, but just like learning about different ways to handle stuff. I have I would say I can get angry very fast. Like I definitely
irritability.
Can be irritated pretty fast. I'm not a violent person, but I can get irritated also really fast. And also sometimes if I'm get annoyed with my mom or my sister or my partner, it can result in me being like, fuck, why was I such an asshole there for no fucking reason?
Also regret and you feel embarrassed.
Yeah. And then like apologizing, it never really helps. Obviously you've already done the damage. So you just feel like an idiot. And then you're like, but what I've learned over the years is like breath work.
Cool.
Do you know the Wim Hof method?
No.
Yeah, Wim Hof, he does, you can get to a state of enlightenment, which is also something part of my self-help therapy that I did, which is a breathing exercise. You're kind of breathing like fast, rapidly, and you're holding your breath for a certain period of time, then you're breathing really, really fast, and you hold your breath for a certain period of time. And obviously, you probably don't want to comment on that because it's not maybe scientific, but there's plenty of people that have had profound benefits from it. And I definitely had some of those moments as well. And meditation I've tried, but it's difficult with ADHD especially. So I think it's just extra difficult.
Right.
But breath work has been something like I just release it and it's just breathe. If I'm pissed off, pissed off. I'll go for a walk and I'll just breathe like 10 times. And I don't do it enough. And obviously I've led teams. I think I've been a great leader in so many ways, but I've also been a horrible leader. And I consider myself also parenting my team, right? You're not parenting them in the traditional sense, but you are obviously making sure that they're getting a report of how they're doing. And you're giving them that feedback and there's that two-way feedback street. Are you doing good for them? Just like being a parent.
So due to your professional role you play and other things in your life, you've done some work, right? And through that work, you've found strategies that have worked for you. Now, do you know the science of why breath work works?
I think that there is I think that it definitely feels like you do release something when you do exhale. And I think inhale, exhale, like you can like mentally have that. I'm assuming that it obviously has when you breathe in a bunch of oxygen and release it, I'm sure that it helps helps your heart rate maybe calm down, but go ahead.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about the example, the road we were going down. So let's say you have an instant where you feel that little twinge of shame and you've now brought your awareness to it. Why it's important to breathe into that space and physically actually take your hands to the space you're feeling it is because it regulates this one nerve in our body, and maybe you guys are familiar with it, the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve, VAGUS, is responsible for turning on or off that fight, flight, freeze switch. It's deeming. Are you safe right now? Or is there a perceived danger or threat? Now, because our vagus nerve doesn't know, is there a wild animal charging at me, or am I just dreading a presentation? Or am I just dreading meeting up with someone I have conflict with, right? It doesn't know the difference. The only way it knows if you're safe or not is based on how you're breathing. So what do we do when we're a little bit upset? We go, or we'll breathe very quickly and rapidly. So in order to counter that and just tell the vagus nerve, hey, simmer down, we don't need to go into fight, flight, freeze, like I'm just taking an exam here, that's where the science of breath work comes in. Because when you do one of these, it lets your nervous system know that you're safe, it's A-okay. You can come more into the adaptive, evolved part of the brain, which is your decision-making, impulse control, rational thought center. Sometimes we get blocked from that, especially when we have emotional triggers. So that's a little bit, loosely explaining what somatic therapy does for you, is it helps you get to the stuff that's pushed way the heck down. And you wouldn't really, in traditional talk therapy alone, you wouldn't be able to access it as easily. But because you're going through the physical route, it helps you kind of navigate all of that.
What would you say to someone that is extremely afraid of what's buried underneath, which I think is the majority of people?
I think that's why I love my modality. You don't even have to talk about your trauma in order to tend to it. It's all about the physical. Trauma is not what's happened to you. It's what your body's doing to you as a result 100%. Of it, right? So even the word trauma, it comes from the Greek word wound. So sometimes we got these wounds, and sometimes we don't want to look at the wound. It's too scary. So we just throw a bandage on it, right? We ignore it, we don't give it air, So the term, what you're describing, is called a cherished wound. Every so often we have a cherished wound where we don't want to give it air because it's too scary to do that. And that's where a modality like somatic therapy really comes in handy, because you don't actually have to get into the nitty gritty in order to tend to all that stuff. You get to focus on the physical, use a little bit of a side route to get there. And then if you feel safe enough, maybe you'll share, maybe you'll talk about it.
On the topic of men's mental health and also coping with all that kind of stuff, obviously substances you mentioned earlier is one way that men often can get more in tune.